I'm going to be explaining the causes of World War I. So as you will know, this term, that's what we are looking at. We're moving on to World War I. Week 1 is me covering the causes. This PowerPoint's going to go through a couple of different things, and then there'll be a task at the end. So everything that you need to know about this week should be able to be found in this PowerPoint. And then if you've got any other questions, please feel free to refer to your teacher. But to start with, World War I started in 1914 and ended in 1918. You guys will probably have heard of the movie 1917 that came out recently, and that is set in World War I. So it's good to know these dates, just to kind of have them in your head, especially like as an adult in the world. Good to know 1914 to 1918. We're going to cover a couple of different things in this video, and I'm going to boost through it reasonably quickly. So if you do have questions, please feel free to refer back to the video or do a little bit of research of your own or ask your teachers. So these big 4 words here are real fancy words, all talking about, and we'll unpack them, but they're common reasons people refer to about why World War I started. So I'll be unpacking those. We will also be talking about the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and he was actually an Austrian man. He was heir to the throne, and he was assassinated, so killed, by someone from Serbia. So we'll be looking at how that was the beginning of World War I. We're also going to look at some dates of declarations of war, so like when exactly this country declared war on this country, and I'll be introducing a task around these 4 ideas. I'm also going to be showing you some random objects because this is some pretty heavy content. So here's a car, just to keep you interested. Here's a car. It's an old style car. And I'll show you some other random things. Okay. If you notice this means you should be taking some notes. Okay, so these are some important ideas, and taking notes, whether it's in your book, in your OneNote, your teacher will probably give you more information about if they want you to keep notes somewhere, or send them in or anything like that. All right, I'm going to move myself up here. So the first thing we're going to look at is alliances. We've got the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. These are 2 really big alliances that happened in World War I and really shaped what happened. So the Triple Entente is actually, you can see down here, it's a French word for friendly understanding. So this was informal. It did build upon the alliances. An alliance basically means also that friends, like countries are friends. Yeah, so if someone annoys you, I'll get them, and I'll look after you, and we'll take care of each other. So when the war happened, these countries kind of banded together. And these countries were the British Empire, France, and Russia. Italy joined as well, but Italy actually was in this one to begin with and then later moved over. So the Triple Alliance was between Germany and Austria-Hungary, and this was a secret agreement and built on an alliance that was formed in 1879. So a long time before the war actually started, but they still kind of banded together. And Italy asked for their support as well for a little while before they moved over to the Triple Entente. So feel free to pause the video at any time and maybe grab some notes on these ones. Okay, the next thing, I'll just move down here again, is imperialism. So when Britain came to Australia and they took no notice of the Indigenous population and were like, great, this is ours now, and like stuck their flag in it, that's imperialism. So a lot of different countries from this, because this is the area that we're really looking at for World War I, is in here, in Europe. And these countries, what they were doing is just like what happened with Great Britain finding Australia to call their own. This was happening a lot with other countries as well. So let's have a look at this image. We've got Great Britain in green. So obviously Australia, that's still the case. They've got India, they've got parts of Africa, like they're only actually this big, but they're spreading out and claiming land as their own. France are doing the same thing. If we have a look at the yellow bits, they have found a lot of Africa that they are claiming as their own as well, and then bits a little bit around here in Asia, Madagascar. Germany, up here, that's the pink ones. They also are finding themselves in Africa, and they're claiming that that is their own. There are obviously a lot of other countries that are spreading out and doing this as well, but those are just some of our big key players here. Notice too, though, especially like look at this point in here. We've got Britain, France, and Germany. They're all already invading somewhere and saying this is ours now, and yet there's a point at which they all meet and they're on the hunt for land. So you can imagine how tension is high between those countries saying like, this belongs to us. And the other country either being like, sure it does, or no, it doesn't, it belongs to us. And so you've got these countries that are kind of the tensions building and they're getting increasingly frustrated with each other and in their seeking of dominating land. So this led to our next big keyword, which is militarism. So in the years leading up to 1914, which was the start of World War I, many countries were increasing their military. So France and Germany actually doubled their military from the previous 40 years. They had doubled it. There was a creation of new weapons. So this Germany's dreadnought, which is this boat down here, very scary looking. Would not want to go to war with that boat. And Germany actually, I'll just move over here. So Schlieffen, that they developed the Schlieffen Plan. And Schlieffen was actually a German man, a military officer. And he came up with this plan here. If Germany and France were to go to war, remember, this is before war actually was declared. He's coming up with a plan to get ready for war. If they did go to war together, then Germany would attack France, but Germany wouldn't just go straight through here because that would be too expected. They would go through Belgium and they would come around and loop around and attack France from behind. So you can see how with this happening and with this happening, when there was a trigger, which was an assassination, which we'll talk about in a bit, all the countries were kind of getting ready for war anyway. And when you're kind of like ready to fight someone, it doesn't take much for, the trigger. And they're like, all right, let's go. Because they all want other people's land and they would all look at war as they're going to gain something out of it. So there was really a lot going on in the world at the time that World War I began. One more thing, and remember we can be taking notes, is nationalism. So this is the belief of freedom for your own country or nation. This was a really big thing, especially here, because you've got countries spreading out and going to new land and saying, this is mine now. And the people that live there are saying, no, it's not yours at all. And that was even happening within Europe when there was conflict and that kind of thing there. So large areas of both Austria-Hungary and Serbia were home to nationalist groups, and they were kind of protesting or wanting to protest to argue to have their own freedom. And this particular issue is what led to the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And he was an Austria. He was heir to the throne. He was about to become very, very powerful. And he was assassinated by a man from Serbia called Gavrilo Princip. So I'm actually going to make a separate video telling this story. It is really interesting, really coincidental. But essentially, I would tell you to go watch the video. But basically, this man, this very important Austrian man, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was assassinated by a Serbian man. And then this led to Austria declaring war on Serbia, out of revenge, I suppose, like you killed one of our royalty, and so now we are going to go to war with you. But because of these alliances, this was a very complicated thing to do. So let's look at these beginning attacks. Austria-Hungary, which we now know like Austria, that actually country has changed a little bit. So it's not called Austria-Hungary anymore, but this country declares war on Serbia. Serbia has an alliance with Russia, and Austria has an alliance with Germany. So when Austria declares war on Serbia, they know they're also kind of declaring war on Russia as well, because Russia and Serbia are friends. So Germany, who is friends with Austria, declares war on Russia. So you've actually got two completely different countries that are involved just because they're friends with the countries who are involved. Germany also declares war on France, because remember, France and Russia, if we go back to this, France and Russia are in here together. Okay, so as you can see, this is just getting bigger and bigger. So then Britain, who is with France in that triple entente, and Russia declare war on Germany. And because Australia is allied with Britain, we are now involved too. And we're going to look more in depth in that in week 2 of this term. So then we've got Austria declaring war on Russia, just to kind of close that gap a little bit. Japan gets involved. Austria declares war on Japan, and then the US gets involved a couple years later. They're a little late to the game, but they're still involved. Okay, so as you can see, all of these key factors are coming in right now, all because of that assassination. And then Austria declares war on Serbia. It has all these follow-on effects. And all these countries are actually kind of keen to go to war too, because they want to get something out of it. Okay, so it's pretty complicated. I would recommend doing a little bit of research. I'm going to link some videos in as well that I use to help me kind of really get my head around this, to help you guys understand it. So if you do want to watch some of those videos, they will be up as well as extra resources, or you can do your own research there too. Also, this is a science beaker. It's got the numbers here telling you how many mils you've got. Science beaker. Very cool. Yep, just another object, just in case you got bored. Okay, your task now. That is all the information. Remember, if you need to go back over it, take some notes, please do that. Make sure you've got that information sorted before you start this task. So I've got some cartoons in the PowerPoint in below. I'll show them in a second. You will need to pick 2 of the cartoons. They're political cartoons, so they're all saying something. Then answer the following 4 questions. I'd like you to have at least 150 words in total, but that's negotiable. And if you want to do more, if you want to maybe do a little bit less, but you feel like you've done a really good job of it, you have to negotiate with your teacher. So question 1, which cartoon have you chosen? As you can see, they're labeled cartoon 1, cartoon 2, so that's an easy question to answer. Describe the cartoon. So for this one, you have, men are standing around, they have names on them, the names of the countries. Give a little bit more detail. What else is around over here? US is hiding. Why might they be hiding? What concept or cause? And here we've got these 4 keywords. So that's why it's important you understand what these mean. What is this cartoon talking about? Okay, so this is a bit of a tricky one. And this is where, if I haven't explained it in a way that you understand, you could go and do some further research on that. What do you think, which one of these do you think the cartoon is talking about? And then what do you think the cartoon is actually saying? So that is your task. And this is a very small guitar. Okay. The cartoons are here. I'll just move myself a little bit there. Here. And that's it. So these are the cartoons you have to choose from. Choose at least 2. If you want to do more, because they're super fun and interesting, do it. And you can be putting them on OneNote or Daymap. Maybe just your teacher will probably tell you where you should be documenting this stuff. I hope that makes sense. Please let me know or your teacher know if you've got any questions, and I'll see you around. Bye.